Got my number figured out.
What's up, Internet? I'm Aries Van Dam. How y'all doing today? Merry Christmas to all my non-pagan followers, and Happy Kwanzaa to my black followers, and Happy Hanukkah to my Israeli followers, which I have none of, thankfully. Happy Festivus to all the New Yorkers. It's a wonderful time of year. So today I found a video where Andrew Wilson gets a rematch with Destiny, even though Destiny had blackballed him and said he would never debate him again. We got a return match on Piers Morgan, of all places. This is from a couple of months ago. Just wanted to check it out with y'all and see how y'all's Christmas was going. Mine was great. We celebrate on Christmas Eve because, you know, the family usually has to go somewhere on Christmas Day. So we usually do it on Christmas Eve. And then after, I went to a friend's house who has a flip cup and beer pong tournament on Christmas Eve. So I had a great time. Hope y'all's holidays are just as good today. So let's get into the video. I'm so sorry I have to do so much Piers Morgan for y'all. I know he sucks, but it's mostly not him. This is not one where you have to deal with a whole lot of Piers. So we'll power through. We'll just power through. Here we go.
It's been another whirlwind week in President Trump's USA, from outshining Taylor Swift to banning plastic straws and bringing Doge's Elon Musk to the Oval Office. Somewhat overlooked in the blizzard was Trump's order for a new task force on anti-Christian bias and the launch of a White House faith office led by televangelist Paula Michelle White-Cain.
The longer the dance, the more bees she gets aroused. So Queen Bee starts going into this frenzy, and she starts going around and around and around, and she goes into vibrations until all the bees get activated and all the bees start going forth, and she leads the way by stirring something up. Angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda aka ata raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rike. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now.
I like the look on Pierce's face here. That's the same look I had whenever I saw Trump's spiritual leader that he brought into the White House to be, you know, the person who guides us morally. Did it scare you a little bit? It scared me. I'm sure it scared Andrew too, but I don't think he's going to say that because he's debating leftist here. But I know that frightened him a little bit.
You can do with some of that energy. Well, Trump says that God saved him to save America, and many supporters are fully on board with making America holy again. But critics say it's a divisive move that could bulldoze the constitutional separation of church and state. Here to debate this and much more, two controversial commentators whose views of this world, and indeed the next, couldn't be more different. Destiny is an outspoken liberal and atheist who said that religion is trash and a substitute for human thought. Andrew Wilson is a fiercely committed conservative Christian and founder of the Crucible debate channel, who once said this about facing Destiny.
You and Destiny on whatever podcast together. Been watching some older debates with you and him. Love watching you wipe the floor with them. Keep up the amazing work you do. I doubt it. I doubt there'll ever be another debate between myself and Destiny, and here's why. One, I'm blacklisted. He actually made a blacklist and put me on the blacklist. So even if he says, well, now you're off the blacklist, I see no reason why I should engage with him.
Well, here you are. You're both together again to debate. I'm personally thrilled that the reality has come to this point. So welcome to both of you. I would say let's try and keep things civilized, but that's entirely down to you. It's your debate. I'll be in the middle of it. And hopefully we'll try and get through some complex issues in a constructive and interesting way. So welcome, anyway, to both of you. Let me start, Destiny. I mean, this whole idea of Donald Trump, you know, making America holy again. What is your response to that?
I feel like we have a lot of issues right now in this country. I don't know if our president being a spiritual leader is one of them. There have been things that I've said about religion, mainly in regards to philosophy and how you reconcile like religion with some philosophical positions. But I do think that right now there's kind of a crisis of meaning in the United States. I think for a lot of people, religion can serve as a good foundation of meaning. However, I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be the guy to, I guess, usher in that era of religiosity in the United States, at least not for any wholly religious person that I know that would, look at a person and think, oh, this is like a spiritual leader that I would want.
Andrew, I would have kind of agreed with that, having known Trump a long time and never seen him as a particularly religious guy. I got to say, since he got shot, he sounds a very different guy about God, about religion. I've spoken to him myself several times. I mean, including once a week after he got shot, where he said, God must have had a plan for me. He must have saved me for a reason. He said, there can be no other explanation for why I came so close to being killed, but miraculously escaped. I do think he feels that really quite deeply.
Yeah, there's no atheist in foxholes, as the saying goes, right? So a near-death experience often will bring people closer to the divine. This is a very common thing. Doesn't surprise me that Trump narrowly, very narrowly, for a turn of his head, is still alive. I'm sure that he could definitely attribute that to divine intervention. And I'm sure even Destiny would understand why a person would do that. He's right about the fact that we do have a crisis of meaning, but he also is right, and I can concede on this point, that an office of faith with a chick speaking in tongues is cringe. And the most divisive thing on planet Earth is religion. It's the most divisive thing when it comes to, it's even more divisive than relationships. It's more divisive than sex. It's more divisive than anything is the topic of religion itself. America is already very divided on religiosity with a traditional camp and a non-traditional camp. I don't actually think that this was a great move for him to put in this office of faith, not because I do like the fact that it does signal that it's perfectly acceptable to rule through faith.
I don't like that he chose a snake handler as a fucking leader. I was raised in a Pentecostal church, and it is scary as the fuck. My grandma used to bring me to that church, and I would watch people dance and do this talking in tongues. They would run up and down the aisle. It's frightening. It's the reason I'm not religious today, because that religion scared the shit out of me. Like, we were one level away from the people who kiss the snakes. Like, yeah, that will scare a child. So I don't want to see that as our spiritual leader. No.
I think that that's perfectly acceptable. However, I think strategically it wasn't particularly wise, as it opened up a dialogue now between the traditionalists, who were really Trump's kind of staunch supporters, saying, what the hell are you doing here? We don't want this woman, Paula, in any way or shape, form, or capacity representing Christianity on the national stage.
Yeah, Destiny, some people see MAGA Christian nationalism as racist. Time magazine said the toxic blend of ethno-religious identity politics was reflected in the prayers and religious symbols participants carried at the US Capitol insurrection on January the 6th, 2021, and it's become central to the trajectory of the contemporary MAGA Republican Party. Would you agree with that? Piers Morgan Uncensored is now proudly independent. If you like the show, we are. So what is the solution? Well, a simple that'll help you set them up. I mentioned my
section of MAGA or far-right people that are racist in the United States, but I would say that this is a small section, and I don't think that it's worth focusing on. I think that progressives especially have this tendency to over-exaggerate. I mean, we were all on the internet when people were hunting every single person who made the OK symbol and saying that they were like some kind of closet Nazi or whatever during the Rittenhouse era. So, there are going to be racist people everywhere, but if you want to attack MAGA and you want to do it.
Is he saying that wasn't true? People were getting canceled for that. They were getting canceled for doing this. This was enough to get people canceled during the Rittenhouse era. Just doing this. I don't even care what that fucking means. I'll do it because I like it. Fuck you.
Through the lens of they're racist, white supremacists or whatever. Most people, obviously MAGA is not going to care for a variety of reasons, and they shouldn't. And even most people that are kind of like looking from the center or even from the center left are going to be like, well, I don't really know if I feel this way. Like, MAGA kind of seems more colorful than they even have been in the past in terms of conservative movements. You could just look online and see that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of those types of attacks towards that, I guess, ideology, towards that camp.
You're sounding very reasonable today, Destiny. You're right.
I'm a very reasonable person, Piers.
Well, that is, he is right. There are better avenues for which to attack the MAGA movement that would actually be more effective for progressives. them utilizing this type of attack actually didn't do them very much in the way of good in this last election cycle. And you saw this from large progressive commentators, and this is all they did. Son Piker, among many others in the political commentary world, Bosch, other guys like this, they hyper focus on the racial dynamic issues. And Destiny's right. MAGA doesn't care. And most of the supporters of Trump don't care. And most Republicans at this point don't care because it's so overused that essentially if you overuse a phrase like this or these kinds of talking points too much, their effectiveness just basically gets destroyed.
So let's move from making America holy.
And that's the point we've been trying to drive through to everybody. If everything's racist, then I don't give a shit if you call me that. If it's anti-Semitic to say Israel shouldn't be funding their wars with our hard money, if that's anti-Semitic, then count me in. Count me in. I don't care about what y'all think of those words. They don't fucking matter.
Again, to making America healthy again. I mean, Destiny is a divisive character. I got to say about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I'd heard all the stuff about him. So the first time I interviewed him, I was quite like combative with him. And I was pretty charmed by him and quite impressed by him, I got to say. And I've interviewed him 4 or 5 times since. And I really don't think we've got the devil here at the head of the health service. I think we've got a guy who has a very curious mind, constantly asking questions, which probably need to be asked about the nation's health. He's also a fine figure of a guy for 70 who seems to practice what he preaches. Are you in favor or against him?
Absolutely against him.
Because he has a six-pack and he's a Chad, and Destiny's a liberal shithead who doesn't think being healthy is good for some reason, I guess.
I think that there's this talking strategy that people like RFK do that drives me insane. And apparently it works for people like you, where somebody will say something that sounds on its face reasonable, but if you think about it for like 2 seconds, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like the idea of well, we need to be examining the safety of these pharmaceuticals. Like we need to look at the data. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. How do you think these things get passed? Or what do you think all the research is for? Like people like RFK will just say these things.
Yeah, so he's right. So what he said was right. I'm missing the point here. So you're agreeing that what he said was right. And yeah, obviously we should. Yeah, but we haven't been. That's his point. His point is we haven't been doing that and we should start. So what is your fucking point, Destiny? Let's hear it.
Things that sound good. Like, shouldn't we be doing research on long-term outcomes of, XYZ drug? And it's like, yeah, we should be. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, we do that. Of course we do. The FDA has a pretty good track record.
We didn't with the fucking vaccine. That shit was out in like a year. How? That's what he's talking about, Destiny. Maybe he's just too bright for you.
Considered.
Andrew?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that Kennedy's as fine a choice as anybody. It's not like these positions have been filled by people in the past who are incredible at them, not even on the progressive.
Our last person who was in that position was a transgender fat lady. Well, fat something, whatever you call it. That's what we had before. Was that better than a guy who can do 100 push-ups? Nope. No one looked at that thing and thought, oh, she's going to make us all healthy. No. We thought she was going to turn our children into little mutants. So that's why it was scary. That's why they're not there no more.
Progressive side, often moving into trans issues, trans healthcare, which was a big loser for progressives. I think ultimately, I don't see any problem with this guy getting in there. I don't think he's going to do anything harmful, and I don't really see any problem with them moving into these various agencies and trying to do various reforms. I don't even actually see why progressives would be upset by that. So
Destiny is upset because he's going to move away from the worldview that transgenderism is A-okay. That's what his issue is.
Destiny might say, well, there's things that he says that are already being done. So he's going to go in and be somewhat redundant. But it's like, if you already like those systems and he's already going in to do the systems, I don't even see why that would be a problem.
Right. I mean, and Destiny, what I would say is that it always strikes me, if you ever see pictures from, say, Times Square or Trafalgar Square in London or Sydney or whatever it may be from the 20s, right? What's the one thing we all notice immediately if you think about it? There's no fat
They're all
people.
in black and white?
Well, there's no fat people, right? They just didn't seem to exist. Literally, they barely existed because people were far more mobile. They had far better diets to a large degree, and none of the processed crap had come into to ruin their lives. None of the
Pierce must be on Tinder too. He's seeing the same shit I'm seeing.
sort of television, internet, and stuff, which makes people sit around all day. So very different way of living. And it really strikes me, if you look at those pictures today to then, the world, particularly in the sort of developed world, like America, like large swathes of Europe, we've just got very fat and unhealthy. And if all that he achieves in his term as health secretary is getting Americans to really think about that more, wouldn't that be a good thing?
I mean, I feel like he can luck his way into a couple of okay positions, but the problem is going to be what the focus is. And the problem is that the focus in some ways, I think, is kind of contrary to whatever MAGA believes in, although it's hard to know at any point in time what MAGA believes in. But for instance, I think that probably the number one...
Notice this non-answer here. He said, wouldn't that be a good thing? And Destiny has not addressed whether or not that would be a good thing at all. His entire little diatribe here is not going to mention it. It's not going to get into it. That's his modus operandi right here. This is how he conducts business. He doesn't answer your question. He just word salads a bunch of bullshit that sounds intelligent until you start thinking about it. And it's like, hey, motherfucker, you didn't answer the question.
thing that you could do to increase the overall health of Americans would be to bring down our average weight. And the best way to do that probably would be to find ways to restrict the ultra processed foods, the stuff that's like super high in sugar, whether that's through additional labeling or whether that's through taxes on ultra processed food or sugar. Either of those, I think, would be tremendously in a good direction. However, both of those things are what? An increase in taxes and an increase in bureaucracy. I don't know if MAGA is in favor of either of those things.
Why would making companies not put those things in our foods be an increase in our spending? I don't understand.
If that was the sole focus of RFK, I would be more okay with it. But it's like this obsession with like the fluoride in the water and red dye number 3 and the heavy metal microplastics in our ball sacks and everything else. And these things are very like, they're worth looking at, but they're on the peripheral, they're on the edge.
What if he's right? I mean, the reason I say what if he's right is I remember through COVID, for example, all sorts of definitive statements from doctors and scientists, which often turned out to be complete baloney. You know, what if he's actually right about this stuff?
He can be right. So first of all, most of the statements that were said by the people on the other side were completely and totally incorrect relating to COVID and vaccines. There were no mass deaths. There were no mass injuries, vaccine injuries. There were no microchips planted in us. There were no permanent vaccine passports. There still isn't any proof that it was created in a laboratory. Like all of those things that are not being correct. But insofar as him being right, I'm saying that like it might be the case that microplastics or red dye number whatever could be bad for us or could even be carcinogenic, maybe. But
so he's on the Piers Morgan way of learning shit. You have to have them come confess. If no one confesses, then it's not real yet. Piers and Destiny are on the same page with how they look at the world. They need a confession. If there's no confession, no crime.
But these are like 2%, 3% issues. Like 80% is if you could bring people's weight down on average by helping our diets, it would be so much more impactful. And I don't see how you do that without increasing the bureaucracy, because you have to be anti-capitalist a little bit. You've got to start taxing certain things. You've got to target certain types of foods in order to change people's food consumption habits.
You don't have to tax anyone to say if you can't put this red dye in your food anymore. That is not going to cause any kind of extra expense. It's very simple. You just make the law and say, if you do it, you have these penalties. How does that increase our spending? That creates no extra spending
habits.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, it's a fine line, isn't it, between being relentlessly critical of health institutions and accepted norms and science and so on, and getting to a place where, if you're not careful, public confidence in all of those bodies collapses. And then you start to have serious health issues.
Yeah, that's true. And this is part of the polarization in the United States.
Serious health issues are caused by lack of confidence in what RFK is doing.
Destiny brings up this point. He says, well, these are kind of tangential issues, microplastics, things like this. The truth is, if we have states that have done restrictions on things like this, they've restricted sugars, they've restricted some processed foods.
You can't get a large big gulp in New York. They've outlawed big gulps, larges. So you can do these things and it doesn't cost anything extra. So I don't understand what he's even talking about.
It does very little to mitigate the problem. I'm reminded of an article I read not too long ago about Japan, where the Japanese don't have the same epidemic when it comes to obesity that we have here. The gal who was there doing the article made a great point. She said she thought the kids there were trolling when they said their favorite food was broccoli, celery, things like this. But when it was investigated, it turns out they were taught that those are the good foods to eat and nothing else is the good food to eat. So in other words, there's national propaganda around the idea of health and things like this. Instead of moving towards restrictions like Destiny's proposing, I would move more towards national propaganda. But progressives are very wary about moving towards propaganda. I don't know why, even though now propaganda itself has a negative connotation. I'm just saying the word propaganda because people understand what it means, right? Like a national campaign for something like this could be very effective the same way they do it there. What's not effective, though, is restrictions. That doesn't seem to do very much. At least it has not so far.
I also think parental responsibility has got to be massively reinforced, just generally, right? It's all very well blaming.
Well, that would be part of a national campaign, though. In order to do that,
No, I agree. But you do actually, you know, like when I see some of the food that parents give their kids, not just in America, but we have it in the UK as well. We've got a massive obesity problem here. And it's like, where's the parental responsibility to stop shoving horrible...
Yeah, but then we have to look at other things progressives don't want to look at, like, okay, alternative family units, single motherhood, the intact family, things like this, which all feed into the idea of how kids are even nourished at home. Like these are all interconnected things. And it's not so fun then if you're running a national campaign to say, fathers should stay in the home. That's good for the family. That's good for the kids' nourishment, things like this. You know what I mean? Suddenly, that's why they tend to steer away from that type of public discourse, at least at the governmental level, even though for the health of the nation, probably would be quite good.
So, Destiny, your sheer progressiveness is going to stop any solution being achieved.
I'm a deeply unpopular person with a variety of people. I have no problems talking about attacking a particular problem from
Especially the ladies now.
a multitude of angles. I think that you can talk about what goes on in the household as well. However, I think that the culture, you know, writ large and what's available is also a really challenging thing to deal with. If you've had a kid and that kid has gone to school, the thing that makes that kid want something more than anything else isn't just something being available. It isn't just, you know, someone on the internet offering it. It's when other classmates have that thing. You know, as soon as you start hearing, hey, Bob or Jane, you know, their parents let them do that, or they have this thing at school. Well, now all of a sudden you're competing against all of the other kids in class. And then these types of pressures when your kid is outside of your supervision are almost impossible to overcome. One thing that is kind of irritating, I guess, is I feel like there was a big push to have kids eating healthier in schools a while ago, but everybody made fun of her for it. It was led by Michelle Obama when it came to making healthier foods in
she
schools
was
and
right.
high schools.
I agree.
Yeah, and it seems like Republicans lit her up like crazy for that. And I don't know. I think that, yeah, I mean, we can talk about healthier food in the household. We can talk about healthier food at schools. Like I think that everybody should be on board with it because things like obesity, being overweight is one of the worst things that you can do for your health.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was out in Saudi Arabia a couple of weeks ago, and they've got a national campaign to get people out doing exercise 3 times a week. And they've got a very young population, like 70% are under 35. And it's been very popular, you know, and as a result, more and more young people in Saudi are playing sport, for example, than were ever playing before. And that
we
is
also
a
have physical education standards here, Piers. We have physical education standards set down by the government here for years, and those were rolled back due to the idea of fat shaming, due to the idea of my kids can't do this,
which is all bullshit.
Et cetera.
I agree.
It's all bullshit. And the thing is like that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about national campaigns for this. We can bring in exercise standards. We can bring in enforcement mechanisms for those standards starting at a young age. Destiny makes a good point. It is valid that if you're in school and you're a kid and the other kids have donuts, you're probably going to want a donut. You don't want to eat your broccoli, right? But there's an aspect of social shame that happens with patriotism and aspects of social campaigns and culture that can be actually done from the top down that we see in other nations, including what you're talking about right now. Just something as basic as, okay, physical education, now we're going to actually start taking it seriously. You know, there's 2 hours of it a day instead of just the 30 or 40 minutes of you throw dodgeball at each other, right? I think that these are very valid things that we should look at.
Yeah, I agree. Let's turn to feminism. So Donald Trump has been lauded as the great new feminist of the United States. This comes from his executive order banning trans.
I could fix that easily. All you got to do is start punishing the parents who let their children get fat and obese like that. And then those parents will start acting like parents again. If you fine a guy because his kid's fat, his kid ain't gonna be fat for long. His kid will get out in the yard instead of playing on the tablet all day. That's the easiest fix.
Athletes in women's sport. Let's take a look at him, surrounded by grateful women and girls as he did this.
You know, if you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on.
Don't let your kids play with the man who is protecting all the people from the Epstein list. Keep your daughters away.
Secret Service is worried about them.
Yeah, we all are.
If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, you want...
I'm
I
worried
don't think
about
I've
them.
ever seen a finer feminist, Destiny.
Exactly.
I mean, this is like classic Republicans. Like Donald Trump tweets out at 4 a.m. that he's going to make the sun shine, and then at 6 a.m. the sun comes up and everybody worships him for it. I'm pretty sure, didn't the NCAA already roll back a lot of the trans participation in sports in the United States? And then I feel like we've already seen like the Olympic make moves against it. Like we've already seen like, I mean, in your country, in the United States, across the world, people have kind of like rolled back a little bit on a lot of the trans youth, especially the medication stuff.
And I haven't won a bet since they did it. Assholes.
You said the
Like, I feel
phrase
like this
there.
is
When you say
already-
it's been a little bit and it's been piecemeal, sport by sport and age groups and so on. What Trump has done with one sweep of his pen is say no more of it at all, right? There will be no more trans athletes in women's sport, period. Now, I personally think this is absolutely the right thing to do. I think it's become the new doping, where people who have an unfair advantage have been, beating women, removing women from women's teams and say the Olympics.
Boo-hoo. They voted for it. That's their fucking problem. Ain't my job to fix their fuck-ups. If we stop women from voting, they wouldn't be there. We wouldn't have this problem. So why is it my job to fix it?
And so on, actually beating up women, as we saw in the Paris Olympics, where somebody reportedly banned from the World Championships with male chromosomes literally beat up one female opponent so badly she quit after 40 seconds in the ring. So I do think this is a really important thing. Do you agree with it?
I don't think this is a very important thing. I don't even know if he can enforce this through executive order. Like, I don't know if there's going to be like some kind of Title IX challenge or whatever. I don't know what the courts are doing with this right now. It's just, I just don't think this is very relevant in the overall scheme of U.S. or world politics right now. I mean, people don't want women competing with trans women, I especially at the college level and beyond. I don't really have a problem with that. I've never really had a problem with that. I don't know if these two groups of people should be competing with each other. This is like a blip on the grand scale of things, I think.
You know what's interesting, Andrew? I've talked to quite a few on the left since the election. They've moved from the position before the election. I'm not saying Destiny was one of them. I can't remember, and you can clarify if you want, Destiny. But a lot of them are like, absolutely, trans women should be allowed to compete in women's sport. Blah 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 blah. And Biden and Kamala Harris supported this with actual policies endorsing it. And now the position is, you know what? Nobody cares. It's a thing. I don't have a view. And I think it's because, to their shock and horror, the single most effective political ad of modern times turned out to be that trans ad that Trump did, ending with Kamala's for they, them, Donald Trump's for you, but also including this issue of women's sports and women's safety and the issue of putting, as we had in England, in Scotland, actually, a male rapist who suddenly identified as a woman and got put in a women's prison. It cost the First Minister of Scotland their job. I think it's a big issue, far bigger than Democrats want to admit. And it's interesting, the narrative has changed from we're all in favor to actually it's just a small thing, we don't care about it.
Yeah, this has been a major setback for LGBTQ, period. The trans issue has been the entry gateway for the one of the most brutal attacks against the left in modern times. And all you really have to do is just ask basic logistical questions like, okay, which prisons do they go to? You know what I mean? We were past bathrooms. We were into prisons. And can children get gender reassignment surgery? Things like this. This has always been a very, very unpopular position for leftists, but they can't really back away from it because the T got attached to the LGB, right? So they could never really back away from it. They've had to kind of defend it tooth and nail. To Destiny's credit, he's always had a more nuanced position on this of I don't care, at least to my knowledge. But ultimately, this is not popular for them. It's never been popular for them. When you're talking about what Trump is doing with the gender binary, I somewhat disagree. Not that he, the thing I agree with is that he proposed at a government top-down level. The United States only recognizes two genders. Now he means sexes, male and female, right? That's what he's alluding to there. But I do think it actually was very punishing for feminists to have fought all those years for their sports teams and then have men just go in and kick the holy shit out of them, right? And so that actually mobilized,
Really crazy they all voted for it, huh? Isn't that weird?
Well, but I mean, it mobilized a lot of those feminists to move away from the left because they were like, wait a second, this actually wasn't the liberation we signed up for, right? We spent all this time fighting for this. And now you can just basically put on a wig and go break all of our records. I mean, it's just a huge loser for the left. And
I agree. Destiny, I want to read you a quote from Andrew Wilson. He posted this week. The most disappointing thing about feminists is how made out of glass they are. With the slightest pushback, they break. They demand equality until you talk to them like you would a man. It's actually comical. Would you concur with him?
I mean, that's everybody in politics. I mean, everybody's a snowflake depending on what the issue you're talking about is. I don't think that it's ever been a huge issue on most of the left when it comes to trans stuff. I think there's a vocal minority on Twitter and in colleges that scream about it. I think it seems like it's a huge issue because Republicans wanted it to be a huge issue. Even that commercial you were talking about was quoting something that Kamala said in 2019. So it seemed like some huge, ever-present issue. But I don't know.
Yeah, Destiny. It wasn't a big deal. Go find a Bud Light now. Yeah, no one cared. This is just something we're making up. No one gave a fuck. But there's a company that used to be the #1 beer maker in the world, and it ain't that no more. So people did care, Destiny. I think you're bullshitting.
I guess I'm looking more towards like domestic policy, like things related to immigration or healthcare or what's happening right now in our executive branch or foreign policy. Like I thought the war in Ukraine was supposed to end on day one. I didn't know that we were signing up to be owners of Greenland and the Gaza Strip and the Panama Canal. These things I think are more important, at least to me, but I don't know, maybe some people are really powered by what Republicans think.
I don't know, I got a 13-year-old daughter, and I got to say, if I was living in America, she was born there actually, but if I was living in America with a 13-year-old daughter who likes sport, I would be very exercised about this. And particularly if she had to share changing rooms with biological men who said, I'm now a woman.
Yeah, I think I'd be more worried about my daughter like dying in Texas, like trying to get a medical procedure done because I'm pretty sure there have been 3 deaths now so far in Texas
Maybe Andrew's not worried because he didn't raise his daughters to be sluts who would go and have abortions there or unalive their children, whatever you got to say here.
Young women that are pregnant that can't have medical procedures done because the doctors have to be so careful when they're doing them that they can't accidentally abort a fetus because then they'll be held liable for crimes. So I think these are things I'd be worried about more than trans athletes, which are
because odds are he's going to raise a bunch of sluts. Like if he has kids, that's what he's going to raise, right? But Andrew knows he's not. So why would he be concerned about something that he's teaching his daughters to never do?
More than a woman potentially being killed in a boxing ring by a trans athlete.
How many times has this happened?
Well, it hasn't yet, but it will do if it carries on.
Exactly, but it already has happened with the abortion thing. So that's what I'm more worried about. Yeah.
Yeah, but children's gender reassignment surgery, that is something which has been on the table for a long time. That's one. And two, when you're talking about this issue, it's kind of revisionist history, right? Now suddenly the Democrats don't care, right? Oh, we so it was always a vocal minority. No, it really wasn't. These were very, very public fights going on at the national level, and the reason is because this was a moral question. We're talking about a moral question from the viewpoint of the Christian right, which most right-wingers are Christians. You're actually assaulting their religion. You're assaulting their idea of what moral grounding even is. So to them, it's a huge deal. For Destiny, who has a completely different moral prism, it's really not a big deal, right? He doesn't really care about it. It's not that important. But to the average person, at least to the average right-wing conservative who's a Christian, it's a huge deal. The assault of the moral foundation is something they're going to take issue with. It's going to be one of their top priorities. So to say that Democrats were not fighting tooth and nail on behalf of trans inclusiveness, including in sports and everything, it's just insane revisionism. Of course,
they absolutely were. I mean, I look at someone like J.K. Rowling, who got absolutely, destroyed by the woke brigade for standing up for women's rights to fairness and equality. Now everyone lauds her for her heroic stance, but at the time, most women put their head understandably put their head under the vicious parapet and didn't want to engage, and that left people like her out on their own, getting completely killed by people who profess to be the Be Kind lobby. And talking of which, I wanted to play you this, Destiny, because it really annoyed me. Not because it's a comedian making a joke, that's absolutely fine, nor that I want her banned or cancelled or any of those things. just about the blatant hypocrisy of what we're about to hear. This is Chelsea Handler talking about Melania Trump.
I am your DEI host, Chelsea Handler. It was a huge year for biopics, a complete unknown about Bob Dylan, about Maria Callas, and Honora about Melania Trump.
Now, Destiny, what she's doing there is calling the First Lady a hooker, okay? She's perfectly entitled to say that. But she would never have done that joke, and nor would any comedian have ever done that joke about a Democrat First Lady at an award ceremony, ever. So my question is...
I would.
Are the Democrats, again, is it one rule for them, one rule for everybody else? And before you do the Republicans do other stuff, I know they do. And it just seems to me she would never have done that. And nor would any comedian if it was a Democrat First Lady.
I so don't care. I mean, like, what is the question? Was the joke too mean, or would she not have done it towards a Democrat? She probably wouldn't have done it towards a Democrat because those types of people all tend to lean left. That'd be my guess, right? The same way that if it was any right-leaning comedians, they're probably not going to go super hard on anybody on the right. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. If you're asking if it's a mean joke, I mean, yeah, it's a mean joke. Lots of people tell mean jokes. I don't know what kind of...
No, it's not about the mean joke. Well, I think it's not really a joke. It's just calling the First Lady a hooker is just vile.
Okay, the majority of... I hear a ton of conservatives right now that say that Michelle Obama and the wife of the French Macron are trans. Like, I'm pretty sure that's...
Them's just facts, though, buddy. You can't help that.
Candace Owens, she said, I would stake my entire career on Macron's wife being trans.
That's
so
not a ton of conservatives.
I don't know. I just, sure,
that's not a ton of
I see a lot of jokes about the Michelle Obama stuff being trans, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Michelle Obama dick jokes are very old and have been going on for a long time, right? I've seen those. You've seen those. And some of them are kind of...
Big Mike.
Kind of funny. But the point is that with Chelsea Handler here, there's one of the most promiscuous women in Hollywood calling someone else a hooker is, right. by the way, hilarious. And also, you're talking about
she's just mad she ain't pretty enough to get paid for it.
Entire party who is pro-sex work, pro-sex worker, pro-prostitution, pro-OnlyFans, does everything it can possibly do in order to enable those things. And then at the same time, they're like, oh, I can't believe the First Lady's a hooker. It's like, if it was anybody else who wasn't a Republican, they would probably glorify it. They'd be like, finally, our first prostitute First Lady. I don't even understand 100%. Why, the depths of the hypocrisy here is actually kind of outrageous, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, I think the joke has more to do with pointing out, I think, the hypocrisy on the other side. For instance, if you make a joke about, like, I don't know if we're allowed, like, for Steven Crowder being gay, that's a common joke that people on the left make. I don't think the joke is, haha, you're gay, so that's bad. I think the joke is more, you hate this thing and you are this thing, which would, my guess is going to be, I didn't see her whole performance. I don't even know the movie reference she was making, but that's probably the joke, is that you guys hate
Did Melania make fun of a lot of whores?
Prostitutes, and you are a prostitute. You hate gay people, you are gay.
No, that wasn't the joke. That wasn't the joke. She's just basically calling she's calling Melania Trump a hooker because she wants to imply that she's actually a hooker. And I think that the point I'm making is not that she's not entitled to do what I think was a crap joke. Of course she is. She's a comedian. It's the fact that you would never ever see at an award ceremony in America, that I can ever remember, any comedian, right or left, make that kind of remark about a Democrat First Lady, a current First Lady, from a stage televised at an award show. That's the distinction.
I mean, I haven't seen every award show, but, like, didn't Stephen Fry do a couple of really brutal award shows where he was, like, throwing it out to almost everybody? Am I making this up, dude?
Well, he's English.
Okay. All right.
Let's move on.
I guess you guys get away with that. Huh?
No, I don't think that. I just don't think any of them have ever called a First Lady a hooker. It just seemed to me, I don't know. It's all about crossing a line in comedy and all that. If you do it down the Comedy Store, you can do what you like. If you're on Twitter or X now, if you want to do things.
He's talking about Anthony Gervais. I think he's talking about Gervais. That's the only one I can remember that hosted the Oscars or whatever and insulted everybody.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to say
Ricky Gervais.
Well, I thought we learned when that guy made the island of floating trash Puerto Rico joke. I thought we learned there were no lines anymore. Why are we crying about her making this joke now?
Well, no, because the left went completely nuts. They thought he did cross a line.
Well, now we've learned.
They did go crazy about it.
Now you get us joke about anything, I guess, right? We're all in that
well,
world
you
now.
should be.
You should always be able to joke about anything. That's the beauty of humor. You should be able to joke about anything if it's a joke.
A joke about everything.
Yeah,
It doesn't
sure.
make-
I mean, but
doesn't-
we
doesn't-
can also joke about her being one of the most promiscuous women in Hollywood, and that she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth here because she's been a big time supporter of sex workers, and now suddenly
I think that's a really
can't
good
believe
point.
she's a hooker. It's like, what are you talking
That's
about?
that's a very good point that she used it as a slur, having professed to be the complete opposite about.
They do this all the time. They'll get in out of one side of their mouth. They'll talk about how trans people are the best among us, and then whenever they get mad at a right wing person, they'll say they look like a man. And they do it all the time.
Sex workers. Very good point. Talking of stinking hypocrites and vile people, let's come to Kanye West, who started the week parading his wife Bianca Censori naked on the Grammys red carpet. We're looking at these images now. It was a deliberate derobing. Whatever. I mean, obviously any woman can do that. I thought it was all a bit cheap and embarrassing and pathetic, and I certainly wouldn't want to be doing that with my wife on a red carpet. What was far more serious to me was what then followed, which was literally just a bombardment of horrifically anti-Semitic, racist comments, and then some pornography that he began flying out. One of his posts, sometimes you have to do it like the Pharaohs, make your Jews work for you, but watch them as close as you can, whip your Jews.
How's that racist? I can see how it's anti-Semitic. That one I can say is anti-Semitic, but I don't see it as racist. That's a religion.
What was interesting to me, Destiny, was ultimately Elon Musk. I messaged him directly on X publicly and said, you're going to just keep letting this guy do it. He's breaking every single rule that X has about this kind of stuff. So the normal rules weren't applying to him, and he was doing it to 32 million people. So the free speech argument is one thing. Actually, the X in-house rule book is another that wasn't being applied. So it seemed to be one rule for him, one rule for everybody else. But secondly, it was clearly, in my opinion, when you start talking about making Jews your slaves and whip them, you are actually now committing a crime. You're inciting actual violence.
I don't think he was literally talking about chaining them up. I think he was making a joke.
Violence against a group of people. That is a crime. It's not protected by the First Amendment. But what was interesting was Elon Musk only intervened and shut down the account for the NSFW pornography, which was completely legal. So, inciting people to violence against Jewish people was not considered to cross a line, but actually posting legal pornography was. I thought that was an interesting contradiction. What did you think?
Yeah, I feel like Kanye West to me, it seems pretty sad because I feel like it's pretty obvious that he has mental issues relating to what is he bipolar or whatever. So I don't know if he has these manic phases where he just starts going crazy. And I don't know if he either surrounds himself with yes men and fires everybody else, or if there's just a bunch of people like the Candaces in the world who are just around him to take advantage of him. But I mean, clearly he has these mentally unhinged moments. I'm sure him being as famous and as wealthy and as successful as he is probably doesn't help with that mania. As for rule enforcement on X, I mean, there's a million things that could be said about that. People have had a lot of complaints about Elon coming on. Obviously, a lot of people from the left feel like the platform has gotten a lot more hateful. A lot of people have said that the platform's gotten a lot more spammy. There's a lot more bot activity and everything. Some people on the right over the H-1B fiasco were upset that Elon seemed to be banning people who previously would have been okay because of their political / racial stances, I guess, or whatever. So yeah, it seems like Elon's been having a little bit of trouble getting a handle on how he exactly wants to present X's moderation to the world.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, I interviewed Kanye West a year and a half ago, and he denied having any mental illness, certainly denied having any treatment for any mental illness. And a lot of Jewish people in particular think it's just an excuse, that he just actually is a massive attention seeker. It was the Grammys. He's no longer a kind of, superstar rapper in people's eyes. He's just become this pretty unpleasant troll.
Newsflash, Piers. Celebrities like attention.
And that he was doing all this to suck attention away from the Super Bowl, from the Grammys and so on. What do you think? Where's the truth about Kanye West, do you think?
I mean, he's done this before. I mean, he had a meme presidential campaign, right?
Yeah.
A total meme.
Two of 'em.
Ultimately, though people, some people took it seriously. Most people in the mainstream most certainly did not take it seriously. And yes, it's attention-seeking behavior. Stripping. First of all, this is not the first time this has happened. Remember that that his wife also was in controversy because she had a cross on her buttocks. Her naked buttocks, and then now she is at the Grammys, and what happens? He literally takes her clothes off, disrobes her. Humiliating, by the way, absolutely humiliating. I felt ashamed on her behalf. I hate saying that, right? But I just couldn't believe it, right? The disrespect towards your wife. That's, to me, in many ways unconscionable. When it comes to the X thing, though, the freedom of speech, what we're talking about here is this line in freedom of speech, which you're right. Elon Musk has not figured this out yet because it's not really possible to figure out. Is it okay? And this is what Kanye West is trying to say. Is it okay to post as much, swastikas and I Heart Hitlers and, everything else on this as I want? And if it's not, why isn't it?
Yeah.
Why can't I?
I agree.
I thought this was about freedom of speech.
He was
so
goading,
he's pushing the number, and that drives attention to that account. And in many ways, it could have been a tactical move by Musk to say, well, maybe taking that down is not going to look good on me. And so when the time came when porn came up, he pushed it a little further, right? Okay, they're not banning my account. He's actually letting this go. How do we push the number a little bit further? Then he moves over to, okay, let's post hardcore porn. And then finally Elon Musk says, okay, enough. I tried to do the best I can. So Musk is trying to find this line. Kanye is purposely pushing the line so that he can test the limits of Musk and this free speech on X and try to point out hypocrisy, this kind of thing. But yes, I agree. It's for attention in a big way. I don't think anybody would disagree with that, even his supporters.
Yeah. Let's turn to
Kanye's issue is that he criticized. Let me back off from the Kanye defense. I'm not going to do
Elon
that.
Oval Office presser. We've got a sort of this.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
Destiny, what did you make of that? Obviously, it's very unusual. You've got the richest man in America standing next to the President of the United States in the Oval Office by the Resolute desk. He's got his kid with him who's picking his nose. It's all a bit random and weird and surreal. However, I did watch it all, and I kept thinking to myself, if I was an average American watching this, hearing what Elon Musk is doing to federal overspending, I'd be cheering him on. I'd be all in favor of this.
Yeah, unfortunately, the average American, I guess, or the average person just has no idea how government works or functions. And I guess weird and surreal is just the way to describe now, or illegal, I guess, is the way to describe that this administration has decided to address programs that they don't like. If you want to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse, I don't think anybody would necessarily have a problem with it, but they keep saying waste, fraud, and abuse when what they mean is programs that I don't like. And they've already taken several
that are wasteful and abusive, because you're making people who don't share that worldview, you're making them finance that worldview. Yes, abusive.
Almost certainly illegal actions in trying to basically unilaterally dismantle organizations like USAID that have been independently authorized by Congress that the president doesn't have the ability to do, to dismantle unilaterally. And now you've seen TROs coming out from the judiciary that's telling him, hey, you have to stop. There was the one on the federal spending freeze that not only was a TRO issued telling him that you have to stop freezing these funds. Now another judge has said you are violating the TRO. You need to stop this immediately. So I guess if you don't care about the legality or the process and procedure or anything having to do with the structure of government, I guess it's a cool thing. But if you care about
nope, don't care,
like following the law or the rules or maintaining your government, then it would probably be a horrific thing.
Yes, we have to let them finance all the gay shit in other countries. Otherwise, we don't care about the process.
But
whatever.
Andrew?
Yeah, you got this idea. I've heard Destiny kind of talk about this before when he's saying, okay, these are illegal actions and possibly the court's not going to be able to catch up with these illegal actions. And so Trump is just going to basically continue with what he's considering to be illegal actions. Thing is like people forget about things like jury nullification or like the idea that you can have laws. And even if you're the enforcer of the laws, in this case, the executive branch, you don't actually have to enforce these things. There's no like you're put there for a reason, just like a jury can nullify a law by saying, even though the law says you're guilty, I can still come back with a not guilty verdict. What's happening here is we don't even know what the waste, fraud, and abuse is. And so there's an audit going on, and this is exactly what Musk is doing. They're trying to audit this and get it in front of the attention of the American people to say, look, we don't want condoms for the Taliban. That was 15 million. Promotion of atheism in Nepal for 500,000. French LGBTQ programs in West and Central Africa for $1 million, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. $200 million 20 days in. I think that the American people do deserve to know that. And I don't think that they would, that this would be front and center or a thing we would be focusing on absent this audit. And I think that more of these government agencies should be audited. Now, Destiny can he can say, well, technically, due to the rule of law, we have judges who are making these impositions and this and that. It's like, yeah, that's fine. But that's all part of the process, too. It's all part of the process of law. The process of law is playing out exactly like it should. Judges are supposed to create injunctions if something illegal is going on, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing wrong, though, with auditing these places. And for the spirit of transparency, I think that leftists are just pissed for no good reason. Like they go, oh, Musk is collecting all these people's information. It's like unelected officials at the DMV are collecting my information. The unelected officials at the Social Security office are collecting my information. Like so many government offices collect my information by people who I definitely didn't elect, and neither did Destiny. They're totally fine with that. But for some reason with these guys, no, that's too much.
That's a good point.
I mean, the reason... Well,
that's
no,
a good point.
As if the federal government doesn't have all your information already. Do you think you're giving them something they don't have? You think they don't have your social? You think they don't have your address? You think they don't have your phone number? Bitch, they are listening to your phone calls. They know where you live. That's not anything you need to worry about protecting. If it's the federal government, they got it already.
The reason why is because these things have been authorized by law. There's a process and procedure there. The Social Security Administration was created by Congress. There is a process and procedure by which they collect data, and they have a process and procedure by which they store data and who's allowed to access it. Elon Musk is definitionally an unelected bureaucrat who is now part of a shadow government who is going from agency,
as is Marge down at the DMV,
to agency, cutting whatever he decides is necessary. In terms of there being transparency, all of this stuff was already publicly available. They've literally shuttered the USAID offices. What do you mean? They've literally frozen payments from the Treasury.
Yeah,
shuttered them as in they tried to give a mass recall saying all the employees needed to come home, which was stopped by a TRO, by a judge. And now a lot of these programs, there was just recently a report by the head of the Treasury guy who now is fired, who was saying that there's a whole bunch of food and stuff that we've shipped to other countries. It's just going to spoil because now we've cut off funding and money for it. All of these things have just been unilaterally cut by Elon Musk and Trump without any authorization from Congress, despite the fact that Congress was the one that authorized the funds for these programs and authorized these offices and agencies.
Good. You go pay for it then.
If you want to remove all of these things, that's fine. If you don't want $500,000 being spent for trans ballets in Nepal for atheists or whatever, that's fine. If you don't want it, then Congress has to defund it. That's the way that this process works. It's not up to the president unilaterally to decide what he likes or doesn't like. That's already been passed
hang on.
by the Congress.
Apparently it is.
Well, hang on.
It's not up to you.
That's actually, I was going to say, look, that's not actually correct. He's entitled to do this, and then there can be
absolutely
legal.
not.
Well, hang on. Then there can be legal challenges, and Trump made it clear in the Oval Office yesterday he would accept what a judge said. Now, by contrast, I remember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when it came to the Texas ruling in a court by a judge about abortion medication, for example. She said that the Democrats should not accept what that judge had ruled. Right? So why is it one rule? Why is it one rule for Democrats that they can ignore a judge's order with impunity? But when President Trump says, if you want to challenge this, no problem, I would accept the ruling of the judge. Isn't that democracy?
What years was AOC the president of the United States?
Again, non-answer.
What difference does that make?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because she's not in the position to do these things. She can give the advice on it. If you wanted me to ask myself, like,
she's an elected lawmaker who doesn't want to obey the law.
A lawmaker, she's in a different branch of government. She's part of the legislature. We're not talking about the legislature. We're not talking about a random lawmaker right now. We're talking about the president of the United States doing things to intentionally contravene. You can't just say you can break the law.
President Biden did the same over student loans.
You can always break the law and see if a judge finds you guilty of it. Everyone can do that. You can walk out of your house right now and break the law. And if no one catches you, then you got away with it.
No, he absolutely didn't. When the Supreme Court shut him down in one thing, then he took a different avenue. It was not the same. President Biden did not ignore temporary restraining orders. It wasn't issued TROs to stop what he was doing with the loan forgiveness. This is a totally different thing.
Yeah,
to say that
this
is not the same. It's not the same process. It's not the same stuff.
I just
Vance and other people have said over and over. I'm still responding to Piers. Vance and others have made it clear over and over again. They've quoted the Andrew Jackson.
You're not here to debate Piers, shithead.
Jackson quote, and they've said, well, we should just resist the judiciary. It is not part of law and order. It's not part of checks and balances for the executive to say, well, I don't care what a judge says. We'll just do whatever, which is what they're currently doing. And a judge has already said they've done with the TRO that was placed on them having to do with freezing federal funding. So they've already broken with what the judges are telling them to some extent. And at the end of the day, there's no way to check and balance the executive if they're just going to do what they want to do. You have no checks and balances there. What are men in robes and lawmakers going to walk down and fight with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI? Like, it's not going to happen.
Andrew?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So this is an issue. What you have is an issue of authority. So Trump he's trying to expand the limits of his office as fast as possible. And I understand why. Last time he was there, they were trying to impeach him from basically day one, made up this phony Russian collusion nonsense. He comes in now, he has nothing to lose. He's going to expand his office as quickly as possible, try to move things as quickly as he possibly can. And most importantly, he doesn't trust the judicial branch. That's what he said himself in his various speeches. I don't trust them to give fair rulings. I don't trust that they're actually there in respect to actual law. He doesn't actually even believe that. So what he's doing is he's expanding as quickly. Hang on, my turn. So he's expanding it as quickly as he possibly can. But he did say that he would abide by the rulings of these judges. He just recently said this, and we don't know what's gonna come of that. Right now, he's expanding this office to try to figure out these audits, this type of thing. I don't see what he's actually done wrong. You're already panicking, but we haven't really had a chance to see what happens if he abides by these rulings, doesn't abide by these rulings.
Right.
We don't really know that yet.
Right.
Well, Doge in and of itself is probably a wholly illegal agency. I don't think that Doge even exists. I don't think they have the legal capacity to even do what Trump wants them to do.
Yet there they are.
Number one. Number two, bringing up the Russia collusion stuff is funny when the entire foundation for Hunter Biden and Burisma was entirely fabricated. That person's already been convicted by the FBI for lying about the origination for that. And three, Donald Trump was already found to have people who were working with him collude with Russia. Roger Stone did it, but he was pardoned by Donald Trump, the same way Donald Trump pardoned all 1,600 J6 offenders.
The same way that Biden
Biden
does the whole crime family, right? Pardons the whole crime family. That's fine.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you see the TDS starting to come up to the surface? Can you see it?
How many crimes have they committed? The Republicans had like 8 years to investigate them and found nothing. How do you know? You had 8 years to investigate it. What do you mean? How many special counsels?
How did we have 8 years to investigate
They had nothing. How did we have 8 years to investigate him from as soon as Biden was in office? They've been investigating this guy, Hunter Biden, over and over and over and over and over again, and they found nothing. That's why the charges we got at the end.
So since 5 years ago, they've investigated them 8 years.
They were for tax fraud. Well, for Joe Biden, they found nothing ever.
Well, Destiny, hang on.
Isn't going to make your points any better. And I just want to make sure that we can get back to the actual point.
Destiny, if none of them have committed crimes, why do they all need preemptive pardons?
Yeah, they all need pardons.
Because Trump has shown over and over again that he doesn't need crimes to start chasing down people, and the Republicans have no problem hunting people down to try to go on fishing.
And the Democrats haven't been doing that to him for the last year.
Give me one example.
Stormy bloody Daniels. Honestly.
Did he break a law? Did he break a law?
What
also, that wasn't the federal government. That was the state.
Are you honestly happy?
That's fine.
Did he break the law? Adultery is not illegal. What law did he break?
Only time an American. Hang on. The only time an American president.
Like the law. No, I don't care.
The only time an American president was ever dragged through a criminal court was over a one-night stand with a porn star 20 years ago. Utterly preposterous.
It wasn't over a one-night stand. It was over misappropriating campaign funds and then creating a paper trail. You can, if you don't like the law, that's fine.
You've had presidents like Obama waging illegal drone programs, killing thousands of innocent people. Why is he?
Clinton got Hummers in the Oval Office from subordinates, from people who were, I don't know if she's getting a check, but people who worked for him. That's not a problem. Trump, 20 years ago, got a blowjob from some skank. and that's an issue.
Not a criminal
Illegal as
court.
per who? Illegal as per who? Which crimes? What are we talking about?
You don't think illegal
You can't
drug
just say
programs
illegal
are
because
criminal?
it sounds illegal as per who?
Oh, you think they're
You just say
lawful?
illegal because it sounds bad. Apparently so. Yeah.
What about
you
the
consulted with
illegal
the Office of
invasion of
Legal Counsel before
Iraq by
doing-
George Bush?
What are we talking about for illegal invasion? Illegal.
I'm
as per
talking
what
about
crime?
crimes.
Which crime? Which crime? What crime
A
are you talking
bigger
about?
crime
For
than
New York
sleeping
State,
with a
it was a
porn
crime
star.
that misappropriated campaign funds.
I'm making
What?
the point. I'm making the point. The only time an American president has ever been dragged through a criminal court was not over running illegal drone programs or illegally invading sovereign countries. It was over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star
These
that
are-
involved a bit of paper shuffling. It was completely ridiculous.
You have strong feelings about what you think should be a crime or not, but if you don't care about the law, there's no legal argument to be had then. If you just think it's a crime because it's bad, you don't like it, or if you think it's a crime or it's not a crime because you don't think it's a big deal, that's fine. But I mean, like, if you want to have the legal
that's
argument,
the logic for you. As
if you want
long
to
as
talk about,
bad things are done via the process of law, that's fine. But if you do good things
saying it
absent
was
the process
fine.
of law,
I'm saying-
that's bad. It's like, what are you talking about, man?
yeah, I know. Here's my chain of logic. I know it's hard to follow. If you are a criminal, it's because you've broken
Talk
a
real
law.
slow.
Not all bad
Not immigrants, though. I bet he won't say that about immigrants.
things are criminal, okay? Not all bad things are crimes. You can think somebody did a bad thing, but they didn't commit a crime. Donald Trump committed crimes in New York State, probably committed crimes insofar as Georgia is concerned, and he's committed federal crimes insofar as the Mar-a-Lago documents case was and the J6 case was. He won't be held accountable for all of that, thankfully, because he's dismissed it. He does everything he can to elude accountability, but those are crimes. If you want to say, I don't like the war in Iraq and that's illegal, illegal as per who? We can talk about the ICJ or the ICC if you want, but that gets obviously way more complicated.
No,
But
that
if you want to
wasn't
say
what my point
illegal,
was.
you
My
have to
point
refer to
was-
crimes.
Yeah, it wasn't my point. My point was to say that from your view, you're only concerned about process of law
The
in
law,
this case,
yes, the
right?
law, yes,
Not about
correct,
not
yes.
hang on. Not about the moral implications of the actual waste, fraud, and abuse that is brought up. Only that the technical process is followed. So it's like, okay, but what if they're not following your technical process, but they're actually finding waste, fraud, and abuse from a moral implication that's actually a good thing. Now, I don't even agree with you that they're breaking any laws. I don't even agree that they're breaking any laws. These challenges are brand new. We have no idea how this is going to play out. You don't, I don't, but we have no idea
You
if
have a
he's
good
going
idea.
to
We think we
adhere
know.
to what the court is going to say. No, we don't have a good idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's not. We don't know for sure that Trump is going to just go, oh, I'm just going to Jackson the courts. The courts can enforce their own law. Like, that is speculation that's beyond the pale.
They've
that I don't
already
even
done
think
that. A
there's
judge has
political
already
will.
issued a ruling saying they've already violated a TRO. So that's already happened to some extent. Now, how far will it go? Who knows? But they've already done exactly that. Doge does not have the legal authority to go in and unilaterally.
No, they're giving a legal
shut
challenge
federal
back,
offices.
Destiny.
They have. They
Yeah,
didn't
they're
even
giving a legal
respond.
challenge back.
Read the TROs. Their response was, "Oh, we're going after fraud," and the judge laughed. And he said, "This isn't even a
That
response."
doesn't mean that doesn't wait. So yes, they are. Not only are they going to respond to this, but they're setting up for legal challenges to go back the other direction. This is obvious. And by the way, this is part of the process. Like, I don't know why you just pretend like these politicians don't expand their offices all the time. And that's what the judicial does, right? It comes in, it'll rein it in. It'll say this is constitutional. It's not constitutional. You can do this. You can't do this. They do it all the time. There's so much precedent for this, in fact. So if he doesn't adhere to what the judges end up saying, to what these courts actually say when he has no more legal standing to fight it, then you have a leg to stand on. Right now, you don't.
He's
right
already
now,
done that.
he's acting,
Okay, well,
he's acting the best he can
All right.
in the ability of the office of the president of the United States.
Chaps, we will see.
So the goal,
because
so the
Destiny,
goal should be to just break as many laws as possible, then, and then see what happens.
no,
That's
Trump
the
has made
right
it clear
course
he'll
of
accept
action.
the ruling of the judges. If he doesn't, that's another matter. Look, I want to end
That
on
doesn't
some-
even follow anyway. Like,
Guys,
if it,
I
that
wanna
doesn't
leave-
follow logically.
We're running out of time. I don't want to leave us without getting to the really contentious story of the week, which is paper straws. Let's watch a clip of Donald Trump talking about straws.
We're going back to plastic straws. These things don't work. I've had them many times, and on occasion they break, they explode. If something's hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So we're going back to plastic straws. I think it's okay.
Why can't we go back to women at home? Let's do that one. Do that one, Trump. That would impress me. Let's stop it here. They don't really get into this. They just joke a little bit about the straws. If I remember, I saw this in a while back. Let's see. There we go. Now, Merry Christmas, everyone. Just felt like I needed to get on today just to tell everybody Merry Christmas and hope everybody was having a happy holiday season. But if any of y'all have a content creator or content you want me to react to, go in the comments or hit me up on X and just let me know how to get to it, either a link or just his name, whatever you need to do. I'll go find it, check it out, and see if it's something I want to react to. And if so, I'll give you a shout out. So I'll be back here tomorrow, and I can't wait because tomorrow I think I'm going to do another Crowder video that I was looking. I'm not positive, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but check back tomorrow. I think I got a good one for you. So I will see y'all then. Peace.